Greg, I'll call your 167 years and raise it by 45. When I got to Red Oak Grove, the church which I found there in what is still a very rural area was founded in 1812. We just celebrated our 200th anniversary. And even though my first Sunday was there, we had 32 members in Sunday school. Just like the book of Acts, they had 7 deacons to serve those 32 members. The church had a very healthy sense of pride in its past heritage, a very independent spirit, had a very fat bank account, had nice facilities, 17 acres of land, and was pretty satisfied. They didn't really say it, but they didn't want any leadership. They were pretty sure they could handle the leadership. They just wanted a preacher. And for many years, they'd had a pastor for 17 years who never attended a business meeting or a deacon's meeting, so they kind of liked that a lot. And when they gave him a new car for his 10th anniversary, they liked that so much. But when his health got bad and he had to retire, 2 pastors followed him. They didn't fare nearly as well as he did, and then I was next. So that's kind of how I got there back in 2002, I guess it was. Jim, you can, oh, there we go. All right, we got the slide. Well, I didn't arrive without my own issues. None of us really see the problems in our own leadership that we see in other leadership, that folks have. And I had to deal with some things myself. There were several key families in the church, as you might imagine, some families who'd been there for about 100 years. And behind the scenes, these families vied for leadership, for power. You know how that goes. I actually found it pretty amusing and just kind of sat back and watched it for the first couple of years. I didn't even realize that I hit a couple roadblocks myself. First of all, the matriarch of the church decided that the music director needed to be replaced. And when the matriarch of the church decides that, then you as a pastor have to decide what you're going to do. I hate to say that I did not do what I should have done, and as Tammy just shared, Proverbs says that the fear of man is a trap. So I fell victim to fear. And then there was a time when I wanted to bring in a guest music minister and pianist for a revival. I didn't realize I was changing a tradition they had had for probably as long as the church existed. And when the Key family, whose daughter played the piano, said yes and then said no and said yes and then said no and went back and forth, after about the 3rd or 4th yes, I just moved ahead. And, of course, pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. So being a pastor doesn't keep us from edging God out. I was pretty good at getting God off the throne of my life because I was pretty sure I could handle it myself. I mean, after all, in the mid-'90s, I was in Tom Rainer's book, Effective Evangelistic Churches. I was pretty sure I knew how to do some things, but, nothing could have been farther from the truth. Pride and fear were doing damage in my ministry. And worse still, they were doing damage to the Lord's church. So if we're on the 3rd slide, yeah. So when pride and fear happens in the life of a leader, it also happens in the life of people that you're leading, the followers. And so when pride and fear collide, you have all kind of horrible things that are going on. You have conflict, competition, you have exploitation, manipulation, paralysis, suspicion. All of these things are the various interactions between pride and fear. And when that kind of stuff is going on, you can't get a church to do very much. We improved a few things. We hired a youth minister. We improved the bank account even more. We did a few things like that. We sent a couple people here and there on a short little mission trip. But the reality is we weren't doing much. We weren't doing very much. In spring of 2011, I looked over my shoulder, and I didn't like what I saw. Even though things were fairly well at church, the reality was that nobody was leading. Ken Blanchard says leadership is about going somewhere. And the reality is we weren't.